poisoned mirrors and cannibal ovens. The shocking true histories that inspired classic European fairy tales.
A winter forest path at dusk. A small figure in a red hood walks through the snow carrying a basket. She is alone, treading carefully. She glances around with cautious eyes. The forest feels watchful. A distant wolf howl echoes through the trees. She listens, then continues on. But this story is not what it seems at all. Before it became a beloved children's tale, it actually began as something far darker and more sinister in nature. From behind, a mother fastens the red cloak around her daughter's shoulders, a warning about the path ahead. The girl does not yet understand. The forest path narrows into thick fog. Light fades. Silence settles around her. In 1589, Europe was in the grip of the Little Ice Age. The German village of Bedburg lay buried under relentless snow and famine. Wolves crept cautiously to the edge of remote settlements, desperate and starving from the harsh winter. Their ribs showed prominently through their frozen fur. Fear spread faster than the cold. Torches were lit. Whispers turned to accusations. The village needed someone to blame. A farmer named Peter Stumpp became the primary target of suspicion. His haunted eyes and increasingly feral appearance made him an exceptionally easy suspect. Wolf prints in the snow seemed to merge with human footsteps. Suspicion grew into a mob. Accusations filled the village square. Peter Stumpp was dragged before the magistrate, bound tightly in heavy ropes. The grave charges were solemnly read aloud: werewolf, murderer, and servant of the devil. In his eyes, the torchlight reflected pure terror. He already knew what awaited him in the dark, mysterious dungeon below. A leather belt with an iron buckle. It looked ordinary, but under torture, Stumpp confessed it was a gift from the devil that let him change shape. The belt became the centerpiece of a nightmare, a human hand transforming into a wolf's paw. The ordinary turned sinister. A wolf howled at the full moon from the dark forest. Other dogs answered. Meanwhile, the girl in red kept walking through the woods, her basket swinging. At dawn, a wooden execution platform rose prominently in the village square. The crowd gathered in complete silence beneath the gray, overcast sky. Peter Stumpp was brought out in chains, his face bruised and swollen, his clothes torn. The magistrate read the charges aloud solemnly. A young boy stared up at the platform, completely uncomprehending the scene before him. Then came the final moment. The crowd fell silent. Afterward, his body was displayed on the wheel. Crows circled. The leather belt was thrown into the fire and consumed. An old woman lingered in the quiet square, then slowly walked away, shaking her head in disappointment. Snow began to fall gently on the empty wheel. Before Perrault and the Grimms, the tale existed in French oral tradition. Old chapbooks showed a bipedal werewolf creature at a cottage door. The crude woodcuts terrified. A werewolf in grandmother's clothing. The fear was etched into every rough line. In 1697, Charles Perrault sat in his Paris study and wrote Le Petit Chaperon Rouge, a classic tale with an important moral lesson for children. He warned young women about charming predators who disguise their true intentions. In his dark version, the cunning wolf ultimately wins. There is no happy ending. The better to eat you with. The wolf devoured the girl, and the moral warned about strangers who hide their true nature. Perrault paused thoughtfully, contemplating the vast darkness that lay beyond the warm candlelight. Then came the brothers Grimm. Jacob and Wilhelm sat by the fire, surrounded by folk tales collected from German villagers. Jacob's hand sorted through worn manuscripts. One page showed a girl and a wolf. They discussed the story. The red cloak hung in the chair beside them. They decided to change the ending. Wilhelm wrote the hunter into the tale as a rescuer who bravely cuts the wolf open, allowing the girl and her grandmother to emerge from within, completely unharmed and safe. They filled the wolf's belly with stones, transforming the once terrifying werewolf legend into a gentle, heartwarming bedtime rescue tale for children. The story traveled across the world in countless languages, carrying its warning. The real monster of the story was not the wolf. It was hunger. It was a desperate peasant face hollowed by famine. A dead cow in a frozen field. A farmer who lost everything. Starvation that turned neighbor against neighbor. In the dark alleys of the village, mistrust became a sickness. Men whispered threats. Fear made monsters of ordinary people. When the wolf was finally killed, it was just an animal. Thin, starving, not supernatural. The real monster was panic itself. Torches in hand, neighbors turned against one of their own. The wheel stood against a blood-red sunset. Snow began to fall, slowly erasing every trace of what happened there. But the fear lived on. A door was forced open. The mob had found its target. Return to the path. The girl in red reaches the cottage at last. Smoke curls from the chimney. She hesitates at the door. A strange sound from inside. A shape moves behind the curtain, too large to be her grandmother. A modern reader closes the book. The story has traveled centuries. A red cloak on a hook. A door closes. A wolf howls in the distance. Wolves at the door. Some wolves walk on two legs. A modern child listens to the story in pajamas, eyes wide. The tale is still being told, centuries later. A red cloak hangs on a door, ready for tomorrow's play.